Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. In this video we are going to be counting down and ranking 22, I think I've got 22 of my favourite Amouage fragrances. So I did a video on this a few months ago. Since then I've actually got quite a few more Amouage fragrances which I'm quite excited to tell you guys a little bit about. So just before we hop into this, it's going to be probably quite a long video. I'm going to try and get through it as quick as I can. I'm not going to focus too much on one fragrance for too long. I am going to be doing a top 10 where the top 10 that you see on this list, I'm going to go into a bit more detail compared to this list. But because we've got 22, because we are growing the world's biggest Amouage collection by the looks of it, I've decided I'm only going to be talking about the fragrances for about 1 to 2 minutes. I'm going to try my best. I do absolutely love the House of Amouage, which is quite clear because I have got over 22 of them. This is not a sponsor video. I've had a few comments before saying you must be sponsored by Amouage. I'm not. I wish I was. I don't know off the top of my head if Amouage actually does sponsorships, but my business email is in the description below. So Amouage, if you're watching, happy for a sponsorship. But no, isn't a sponsor video. And just before we do it on with this list, guys, remember, if you are new to the channel, if you are a fan of fragrances, please do not forget to drop a like to this video. Please do not forget to subscribe as well if you want to join a great community of people that are all really interested in fragrances. It's a really nice community and we'd be more than happy to have you. Also, there is a link down below to sign up to the Facebook group. I've recently started up and it's just, again, similar to the YouTube comments where we can just all kind of interact and just talk about fragrances in a nice positive way. So with that said, we are going to kick things off at the last place. This one is, I can't get on with it. And I might have talked about it before in the channel, and even though I don't actually know if people like this because it is so artistic, it's so kind of not typical fragrance, if that makes any sense. And the one that I am putting in the last place, it kind of had to be here. I think I've worn it once. It's so hard to wear. It's probably the coolest bottle design, I'll be honest, and also a really, really cool box. And it's this one here, really nice packaging. It's Amouage Figment Man, and this one has now been discontinued. You can see there, it's got the writing on the sides. This is a fairly old batch. Oh, God. And it would be perfect for a day like today where it's really rainy and this thing smells really muddy. It smells really earthy. So the best way I can describe Figment Man, even though it's such a cool bottle design, this is probably one of my favourite bottle designs from Amouage. I just really like the kind of electric blue look that this thing has. I know the camera's not picking up too well. This, to me, the best way I can describe Figment Man is if you've ever been camping and you need to wake up super early in the morning to go outside of your tent and it's just been raining the night before and it's like really dewy and stuff in the morning, and then you go to the toilet, that is kind of what this smells like. It smells like earth. It smells a little bit urinal, but it also reminds me of like a lightning strike or something. I think I've described it like that in previous videos, but yeah, quite a hard one to like. It's not really for me. It has got quite nice flowery notes whenever you get to the dry down, but for me, it's so soily, it's so earthy. I've had a friend tell me that this smells like them after they went to like a rugby game. And yeah, I mean, I can completely see that. So coming in at the last spot, super hard to wear, but I do understand the artisticness behind it. That is Figment Man, coming in at last place. Okay, coming in at the number 21 spot. This one, similar to Figment Man, is discontinued, but it has also got a very, very cool bottle design, really cool colours on this. And the artwork, the packaging of this fragrance is just so cool. It's probably one of my favourite apart from Figment Man, which is a shame because they're both, on the bottom of the list. And this one is also a really hard one to wear in my opinion. It's this one here, a new one in my collection, really hard. This one probably was the longest one to find, apart from CL Man, which I cannot find a bottle of anywhere. So if you have a bottle of CL and you live in the UK, and you're open to selling it, please let me know because it is one that I'm dying to get. But this one's probably the second hardest one to find for me, and that is Myths Man, coming at the 21 spot. So Myths Man is, again, quite hard to wear, but it's a little bit more wearable. This is very ashy. It's got a chrysanthemum flower, which is actually a funeral flower. This reminds me of like the little brother of Interlude Man. It's got similar notes in there, like if you've smelled the both of them, you'll understand what I'm on about. But this one, some days I like it, some days I don't. Some days it's quite weird. Some days I'll be like, oh, I wish I had worn Myths Man today, which is really strange because it's not my favourite, but when you want to wear it, It's just like, oh man, I wish I was wearing it. But it's very heavy, very ashy. And to me, this smells a little bit like a kind of like fake leather wallet, if that makes any sense, or like a fake leather belt. I feel like if, I think Ramsey said this, who's another YouTuber, another fragrance YouTuber. He said if you wear this with like leather, like a leather jacket or something, or like if you've got leather accessories, like a leather watch strap, or like a leather belt, this thing seems to complement it perfectly. So yeah, coming in at the 21 spot. This one's not really for me. It is quite mature, but there are a lot of people in the Amouage community that absolutely love this one, and I can definitely see that. Just for me, a little bit too mature, a little bit too heavy, but yeah, still quite nice. I do still enjoy it when I wear it. Coming in at the 21 spot is Mitsman. Super cool bottle design too. And so rare. I took like about 6 months to find this. Okay, so breaking the number 20 spot. This one was the very last one on the last ranking video that I did. And I was quite upset that I had to put that at the last spot. I think Figment and Mitsman, I'm not the biggest fan of, but I think every single one on this list now, as we start to come down, I do really like, and I will wear it more and more. And 20 spot, I just had to put it at the last spot last time because out of all of them, it kind of disappointed me the most. It's the most safe Amouage, really, and it smells like something that everyone's already smelled before. The one that we are talking about, by the way, is Boundless. It's one of the newer ones from Amouage that I've got. Quite a nice kind of like ivory coloured cap, sort of reminiscent of the old Amouage bottles, but Boundless, a little bit like the bottle design, and the colour smells to me a little bit like a candle that you would get from IKEA or something. So this is a little bit similar to Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille. It's got the same notes in there. Boundless, it's supposed to be a take on Golden Wood, is what I think the brief was for this one, and I can kind of get what they mean by that. There is a really nice vanilla note in here. It's very woodsy, it's very spicy, and the dry down of this is amazing. But like I said, this reminds me a little bit too much of Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille, and it is a very safe one from the House of Amouage. Performance isn't the best, but it's a great winter fragrance, and it is also super easy to wear, so you know you can't really go too far wrong with that. And yeah, it is nice. Just for me, I wish it was a little bit more spicy or something, I don't know, but really good one. Coming in at the number 20 spot is Boundless. Coming in at the number 19 spot, I'm kind of cheating with this one. I usually like to include only bottles and show you guys the bottles of fragrances whenever I include them in my list. But this one, I got it sent out to me as a little decant for free, by the way. So I do just want to give a massive thank you to Alex Laird. He's one of my friends in the Facebook groups, and super big thank you, man, for sending me out this decant. The one that we are talking about, by the way, in the number 19 spot. This one is actually next up on my list, I think. Maybe with the exception of Goldman. That's not on the list, by the way. I'm going to be either picking up one of these three. The one that we are talking about, by the way, is Amouage Memoir Man. And this gets quite a lot of hate in the community and in the Amouage community, because it is a very weird fragrance. It's got wormwood in here and mint, I think. And it's very, very strange. It's very kind of both-sided, so it's very fresh, but it's also very dark, very incensey, very strange. I really like this one, surprisingly. It's very multifaceted. It changes every single time I wear it. I'm like, oh, I didn't get that last time I wore it. But to me, from initial sprays, this smells like, if you live in the UK, you will relate to this, I think, quite well. This, to me, smells like a black wine gum. And they're sweets in the UK, or they're candies, and every time I smell it from initial kind of spray, it reminds me of a black wine gum. And it's not to say it's very sweet, but it kind of gives off that vibe to me. It's got mint, I think it's thyme as well, or there's some kind of green cooking fragrance in here that reminds me of just being out in the garden. And it's quite a nice fragrance. It is a little bit mature, but I really like the wormwood in here. This also reminds me of being in like Alice in Wonderland, Enchanted Forest or something like that. It's a very like crazy sort of fragrance to describe. And it's so complex. Every single time I wear it, like I said, it changes. So coming in at the number 19 spot, very weird one, greenness and also incense, is Memoir Man. Also, I quite like the bottle design of Memoir Man too, the black and the silver. And speaking of that, we've got the complete opposite in terms of bottle design at the number 18 spot. It's this one here, another new one in my collection. is Honor Man. So like we said, it's the contrast of Memoir Man, where this is white and gold. And in my opinion, one of the sleekest Amouage bottle designs. Just looks so cool. So Honor Man is, again, a very, very safe fragrance. It's very peppery. It's almost fresh. None of the Amouage fragrances are very fresh. This is almost kind of like soapy clean. Very safe for the office. If you're not a fan of pepper, you probably aren't going to like this. But if you do like peppery, kind of spicy fragrances, but fresh, then you will enjoy this. I actually had like a pepper face wash that I was like, oh man, I wish I had a fragrance that smells like this. And funnily enough, I always knew that this fragrance was very peppery. I'm like, oh, maybe that face wash smells like this. And they actually smell identical. So I'm very happy about that. And I love wearing this thing, especially to the office. Anything kind of safe, this works well. But for me, in terms of Amouage fragrances, it doesn't really push the boat out there too much. A little bit like Boundless, but still one of the best pepper notes in my opinion. And yeah, Amouage have done a great job of it. I'm a little bit upset really that this gets a lot of hate in the community because it is a nice fragrance. To me, this is just like if you stripped away all the kind of daring stuff with Amouage fragrances, this is kind of what you get left with. So coming in at the number 18 spot is Honor Man. Coming in at the number 17 spot, this one, I've finally got a cap for it. I used to have a tester bottle of this for the longest time, and I've now finally managed to find a cap for this one, and it's been bugging me so much because I've got all these other ones with the caps on it. This one didn't have it, but now it does. Really cool bottle design, again from Amouage, Journeyman. So we got to take a second to just appreciate that. The gold on the side with the shiny red, same color red as my car actually, which is quite cool. But Journeyman is a very red, spicy Amouage fragrance. So it's got the main note of Sichuan pepper, and I love wearing this outside when it's very cold, it's very dry, and it just kind of seems to complement the weather perfectly when you wear this because it gives you a kind of warmth. But it's very serious, which is kind of what I struggle with this fragrance. I really battled it out between which one I prefer. Do I prefer Journey or do I prefer Honor Man? Now, what this came down to, but even I find Honor Man easier to wear because it's very light. It's, you know, it's quite calming. This is very serious. So whenever I spray fragrances, it's usually in the morning. I'm just waking up. When you spray this thing on straight away, you're like, okay, it's time to go. Whereas with this, it's kind of like a more easy start. So I picked this one up a little bit more, but I think kind of the overall fragrance that's better, I would probably say it is Journeyman. Also, Journeyman has got insane performance. Both of them are quite similar. This one's a lot more daring. This one's a little bit more muted. So yeah, coming in at the number 17 spot is Journeyman. Some people, this is like in their top 3, and I can definitely see why. Just for me, it's kind of too serious for me, and I don't really reach for it too much. But when I do, I absolutely love it. So number 17 spot is Journeyman. Coming in at the 16 spot, loved wearing this thing for the summer. Really cool bottle design. My favorite color actually is this one here, and it's Search. So Search is as if, yeah, wow. Search to me, yeah, it is good. It's probably the strongest one on this list. It just lasts forever. You spray this on your skin, it just doesn't come off for 2 days. Even if you're showering every single day, this thing does not come off. So Search is like a spicy, smoky, lemon and lime smell. So I describe this as if you've just put, and you just squeeze lemons and limes into like a frying pan, and you just let it kind of sit, and you get the kind of aroma. That's what you get from this thing. Really good for summertime. It has got an almost kind of freshness to it too, which I really enjoy. It's one of the newer ones. I think it does get overlooked, but I think out of most of the newer Amouage fragrances, this thing, if it was repackaged into like the kind of older packages, this could definitely get away with being a kind of older Amouage fragrance in my opinion. And I think to me, this was kind of one of the last Amouage fragrances that was very kind of daring. If you were to go into like, you know, a department store and smell this, you might get turned off by it, but I really, really like this one. Perfect for summertime. So coming in at the number 16 spot is Search. What's also quite interesting with Search is, even though it has got the freshness and the smokiness, it's perfect for like a summer afternoon. And as we know, with summer fragrances, they aren't normally the best in terms of like projection and longevity, whereas that thing is the complete opposite. It's probably the strongest summer fragrance that I have. And just thinking about now with the smokiness, you probably could wear it in the colder months too, but I just feel it works perfectly for summer. Coming in at the 15 spot, this one has bumped up quite a few levels because over the autumn and almost kind of winter period, this thing has been getting a lot more wear-ins from me, and I was surprised how much I actually like it, and I can smell this thing all day, man. This is very, very strong. It lasts a very long time, just like a lot of all these other Amouage fragrances, which is why they are my favorite house, because you can smell them. You don't have to go crazy on the sprays, but when you can smell them, like 8, 12 hours later, it still smells great. And the one that we're talking about at the number 15 spot is Bracken Man. So again, another discontinued Amouage fragrance from the Midnight Flower collection. Love the bottle design with like the ferns and stuff like this. And similar to the actual design on this thing, this reminds me of like a forest floor in the UK especially, because it's got kind of dampness to it, but it reminds me of like being outdoors on a walk, and it just has this kind of like outdoorsy smell. And it's quite stuffy too. It's quite brown and stuffy, but man, this thing lasts. Spray this on at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I could smell this until like 10 o'clock at night. I think if I didn't have a shower, I could probably smell it the next day. So super good. And it just works perfectly for the colder, wetter days. It's funny, it's actually the opposite of Search, I think, in terms of when you can wear it. Perfect for a cold, rainy day. And that is Bracken Man. Coming in at the 14 spot, I had a comment a few days ago on ranking every single one of my fragrances, and someone got really upset that I ranked Detour Noir in front of this one, and they called my list irrelevant or something like that. And I actually prefer this a lot more than Detour Noir, just I don't really reach for it too much, which again is why it ranks quite low on this list. If I wore this a lot more and it was a lot more kind of accessible for me to wear, maybe it would be in the top 10, but just because I hardly reach for it, maybe I haven't given it enough wearings really. Maybe this winter I will try and wear it a bit more, but the situations that I find myself in, I don't tend to reach for this too much. But the one that we are talking about at the 14th spot is Interlude Black Iris. So it is good. It's the Black Iris version is quite sweet. It's quite flowery, quite buttery because of the orris root that they use in this thing. But it's got a lot of incense in this thing. It's very resinous, very strong. I've had people tell me that they can smell me like 8 hours later from like 15 feet away. It is one of the strongest fragrances on this list, which is why I don't tend to reach for it too much. But in terms of like artistic and like complexity, man, this thing is up there. It is so nice. Every time I decant this thing, I'm like, oh man, I need to wear this thing more. And the juice on this thing is like a really kind of dark orange, really cool. I really like this thing, but I just don't reach for it too much. But I wish I did more. So coming in at the 14th spot is Interlude Black Iris. Also probably the most wearable out of the Interlude line, I think. Coming in at the 13th spot, talking about flowery fragrances, this is probably the most floral one on the list, I'd say. It's got the main note of rose. It's also got a really nice lime note in here. So it's fresh and citrusy, but it's also got a very clean, elegant rose in here. The one we're talking about is this one here, and it's Lyric Man. So Lyric Man, most people, when they talk about Amouage, this is one that they think about. And oh man, it's good. I think this was my third Amouage fragrance, and I was like, man, I need to get to know this line more. I need to get to know Amouage more, because this thing is so different to other men's fragrances that I've tried, especially like in the Western world. Roses seem to be like a kind of feminine fragrance, but this thing, I think it just does a really good job of kind of captivating that rose and using the lime to make it fresh, but also wearable too. So I like to wear this whenever I'm wearing like a pink t-shirt or something like that, or like a pink hoodie, because I don't know, it just kind of works really well with that. It smells a little bit like Dove hand soap if you live in the UK. I don't know if it is in the rest of the world, but kind of what this reminds me of. I do wear it to the office actually, but it's not my favorite from the House of Amouage, and it is quite strong too. Love the dry down of this thing. The opening is also really bright, really really rosy, jammy rose with a really nice crisp lime. So this reminds me of like a frozen rose, which is a really cool way to describe it. So coming in at the number 13 spot is Lyric Man. Coming in at the number 12 spot, this one I ranked just above Lyric Man because I slightly prefer this one when I wear it. It's a little bit less interesting, I'll be honest, than a few of the other ones that we've talked about so far. But just for what it does, it's really good. I love wearing this to the office or any kind of safe, elegant, upscale occasion. It's this one here. It's another discontinued one, unfortunately, and it's Beloved Man. So I've talked about this before, saying it smells a bit like a urinal cake, and then I've had a few people like take the mick at me and be like, oh, urinal cake, that sounds awesome, I'm going to buy it because of that. And honestly, it is the best way I can describe it. It smells like an unopened pack of urinal cake. It's such a strange fragrance to try and describe, but that is the best way I can. It just smells fresh and clean in like a kind of light lemony way. A little bit like when you put the powder into like a dishwasher or into like the washing machine. That is what this smells like. Just like fresh detergent. And when you wear this on skin, it's got a very nice elemy note which comes out, a kind of sticky sort of lemon smell. And on skin, when you wear this and your skin heats up and this thing starts projecting, man, it is good. When you get whiffs of this, when like you're like moving around, you're like, oh, something smells good, and it's you. It's like, oh man, it's Beloved Man. This is the fragrance you wear when like you just want to smell good. You smell good. It surprisingly lasts quite well for a fresh fragrance. Just for me, I've included it quite low just because it is one of those fragrances where it does smell fresh and clean, but there's like not a lot going on to it really, and that's where it's really hard to describe. So coming in at the number 12 spot is Beloved Man. Just missing out on the number 10 spot, coming in at number 11 is the most popular Amouage fragrance. So it's this one here. You can tell it's the most popular because look how much I've decanted. Even though I really like this fragrance, like a fresh fabric softener, the more niche version of Prada L'Homme, in my opinion. It's so good. It actually does smell a little bit similar to like if you've got like fresh glass cleaner, you just wiped it over, the sheen that you get from a mirror, which, funny enough, Reflection Man, it makes sense. So this to me is like the purple robes that a king would wear or something like that. And I really, really enjoy this one. Funny enough, I haven't actually worn this in a few months. I'm not sure why. Maybe just because I know how safe it is. If I had to sell everything, I would consider wearing this as like my rest of life fragrance. One fragrance for the rest of my life. This thing comes into mind. And if you're starting out with the House of Amouage, this is actually probably one of the best ones that you could get to kind of start off. Super safe. It's a great transition from, like if you are a fan of designer fragrances or like Creed and stuff like that, which are still niche, but they're fairly safe. This thing is a great introduction to the House of Amouage. And yeah, it's just fresh and clean, really soft. And it has got like a kind of jasmine floral sweetness in here, which I really enjoy. So just missing out on the number 10 spot. It also makes my face look really funny whenever I put it against the camera. So coming in at the number 11 spot is Reflection Man. Okay, coming in at the number 10 spot. This one actually might surprise you because I have been enjoying this fragrance so much recently. Like I said with Bracken Man, this thing's been creeping its way up the list, and probably one of the coolest bottle designs is this one here. Coming at the number 10 spot. It's discontinued again. So upset that this thing's discontinued. Luckily I've got a full bottle, and it is Fate Man. Such a cool bottle design. Just that rainbow, like kind of oil slick. And also just talking about presentation, I really love the box of this thing. It's like kind of celestial, like sun and moon phases, which is really cool. But Fate Man, oh man, it's such a calming kind of like brown, a little bit like what I'm wearing with this hoodie. It's just like so calming, so relaxing. It's got the main note of cumin in here, which the main criticism for that is people say that this thing smells like curry. I actually don't really get that, I'll be honest. This is just so calming, so relaxing, and it reminds me of like going up to like a wizard's tower or something like that, and there's like incense, candles. He's got like a telescope, kind of like brown carpets on the floor, like books, library, and it just kind of reminds me of that. Very warming, and I've had great reactions with this thing. You'd think that when you first smell it, oh, this thing wouldn't do well for reactions. Surprisingly, this thing does great, and actually I might wear this tomorrow. I'm going to wear this tomorrow. Very soft, but I feel like most people wouldn't like this thing. It has got that, like I said, that cumin note. So many people do associate this with like traditional Indian food and stuff. So you might not like this. Don't go out and blind buy this if you do find it. Maybe try a sample of this thing first. But I don't know, man. I really, really like this thing. And it's creeping its way up on this list. So coming in at the number 10 spot is Fate Man. So sad that it's been discontinued, to be honest. Coming in at the number 9 spot, this one, it had to be in the top 10. I really, really like this thing. I wore it a lot in the summertime. I wore it out to Tenerife, and I got a lot of reactions from it. A few people told me, like, what I've just sprayed on is, like, the most nuclear fragrance they've ever smelled. And yeah, I probably agree with them. It's probably one of the strongest fragrances that I own. It's very green, it's very ivy, it's very minty. It's this one here, Beach Hut Man. And Beach Hut Man, similar, oh man, that's good. Similar to Reflection Man, I'd probably say these two, and Beloved Man, if that wasn't discontinued, are the best ones to pick up if you are new to the House of Amouage. So this Beach Hut Man, you would think smells like, oh, it smells like a sandy sea breeze beach. But this is more like if you were to go in from the beach and go into the jungle, and there's like an overgrown hut in there, and it's just filled with like ivy and green stuff while still being fresh. That is what you get from this thing. And oh, it's so good, man. I love this thing. Perfect for the summer months, but you could also get away with this in the colder weather too, just because of the performance on this thing. Also, funnily enough, this is one of the only Amouage fragrances that my girlfriend likes. Maybe because it is fresh from the mint. Like I said, lasts forever, and it's got me great reactions, and I really enjoy this thing, and I need to wear it more. And you can see just how much has been decanted from this. I think if it was just me, I'd probably worn up to like here. But really nice. Coming in at the number 9 spot is Beach Hut Man. Again, from the Midnight Flower collection. We've got one more, which is coming up. Coming in at the number 8 spot, this is very under the radar. Most people hardly ever talk about this, and I'm not sure why, because I think this is one of the most posh. It's one of, it reminds me a little bit of like the old Amouage fragrances, like the vintage Amouage fragrances. And I'm surprised it's still around. I wish that they did a X-Straight version, like the exceptional X-Straight, because this thing, even though it lasts forever, most people say that this thing doesn't last. It does last, but it stays very close to the skin. The one that we are talking about is Dear Man. So Dear Man, it's got the main note of peony in it. It's got plum as well, which is very, very unique, those two notes, and also vetiver as well. So it's quite dry. I really like wearing this whenever it's just been raining and it is kind of still kind of hot weather. This is the perfect hot, rainy day fragrance. And it's so posh, man. This I would wear if I was going to like a friend's wedding or something. I didn't want to get in the way. I would wear this. If I don't want to steal the limelight, but you still know that you smell good. This is like the kind of like rich guy who's like, you know, in the back of the bar or something. He knows, you know, he knows he's not the kind of guy who's like flaunting his wealth and stuff like that and like, you know, going around with the watch and stuff. This is the guy wearing like a, I don't know, like a silver Omega or something like that. In watch terms. He's not the guy flashing his gold Rolex round. Like I said, it sits quite close to the skin, but it lasts forever, and it's perfect for office wear or just safe occasions. So coming in at the number 8 spot is Dear Man. And you can see I've not actually decanted this too much, and in one way I'm kind of glad, but in another way I'm quite sad that other people haven't really got to know this fragrance, because it's super safe. I don't really see people could go about disliking it, but it's really good, and it can be a great signature scent for someone. So coming in at the 8th spot is Dear Man. Really cool. Coming in at the number 7 spot, this thing has bumped up so high on the list since the last ranking every Amouage video. And the reason why is because back then, it was a very, very new bottle for me. And with this one, you need to put a lot of air into the bottle, let it macerate, let it mature. I really need to know what the word is, but it's whenever you spray it a few times, get a bit of air into the bottle, and then leave it for a few months. And the one that we are talking about is Epic Man. So, like I said, a lot of people rated this in like their top 3 Amouage, and I'm like, why is it so high on the list? Like, for me, I can't smell it. Like, it doesn't perform at all. Maybe it's been reformulated. I have got a newer bottle, and I'm here to tell you that is not true. You can easily go out and buy a new bottle, spray it a few times, let it macerate, come back to it in a few months, and this thing will be the strongest thing in your collection. Like I said in the ranking every single one of my fragrance videos, this thing, I could smell this out of every single one. This was the one fragrance that I could smell. And man, this thing's strong. Gets great reactions. To me, it smells like if you were having a cart full of spices on the spice road and it's in the nighttime in the desert and then it just starts burning and you come back to it a few days later and all the spices have like kind of evaporated and you've just got the kind of smoky, burnt wood from the cart. That is what this thing smells like. Weird description, but that's just what this thing reminds me of. And it's supposed to be a take on the Spice Road. So to me, it just makes perfect sense. So coming in at the number 7 spot is Epic Man. Okay guys, coming in at the number 6 spot is this one here. It's a very rare fragrance. As you can see, this is the only Amouage fragrance I own that is non-magnetic. And it is real, it is genuine by the way. I'm so glad that I managed to pick a bottle up of this. And it's a vintage bottle of Silverman. So Silverman, this thing, I saw it come up for sale and I'm like, holy cow, that thing is one of the most rarest things. And I actually wasn't originally planning on buying Silverman because I didn't think it was possible that you could get a vintage bottle of this anymore. And you can see because it's got, you know, ivory cap. But this thing, to me, is vintage style. It reminds me a little bit of like Chanel Antaeus. There's a really nice powderiness in this thing. It's very old school. It does get compared to like baby wipes, which I can kind of get, but there's like a vintageness in this that I really, really like. Surprisingly, the notes on this thing, you would think it doesn't last that long, but oh my God, this thing when you spray it on, you can smell it all day. Vintage Amouage, you know, people always rave, if you can find a vintage bottle, get it because it lasts forever. And this thing, even though it's super light, it still lasts and performs all day. This, to me, is the reason why Dear Man is a little bit lower down on the list. So I think Silverman and Dear Man came out very similar. And they do smell quite alike. This thing is just a little bit lighter, which is just what I prefer. Dear Man is a little bit dry, whereas this thing has got, even though it's got powderiness to it, I think with the flowers that they use in here, it freshens it up a little bit. I'm very surprised how much I like this thing. So coming in at the number 6 spot is Silverman Vintage, which is probably the rarest one on this list. Coming in at the number 5 spot, this one I think has dropped 1 or 2 places, and not for any reason really, I just haven't really been reaching it for it too much. I wore this thing on bonfire night and I got a few nice reactions, a few unsolicited compliments, because when we go into fireworks night, it's in my town, there's like hundreds, actually probably say there's thousands of people all in this field, and whenever you're kind of weaving through everyone to try and get to the front, I had a few people say, oh, excuse me, you smell great. And the one that we're talking about is this one here, Overture Man. Probably one of my favorite designs of bottles, very unique, the frosted glass. And Overture Man smells very smoky, which is the reason why I decided to wear it to fireworks night, from the smokiness. But it has got a really nice grapefruit note. It's got animalic notes in here, and it's also got cognac as well. So this smells like if you were to tip like a cocktail or something, like a cognac cocktail, I don't know, on the bar, and you've got like all the garnishes of like grapefruit, and it's just like on the bar, this fleshy grapefruit covered in cognac. That is what this thing smells like. Some people really don't like it because of the cumin and the animalic notes, but for me, I really like that. It gives it kind of like a little bit like funk to it, which is quite cool. And super long lasting, man. This is the Orange Beast. It was Christopher Chong's last fragrance as the head of Amouage, and the name Overture is just kind of like the perfect ending, I think, for him as the head of Amouage. But yeah, man, when you wear this, it's like, yeah, this is serious. You know that everyone around you can smell you because of how strong this thing is. It's not to everyone's taste. I do see this come up quite a lot in the groups. But yeah, give yourself the opportunity to give this thing a try because, you know, it's no slouch. It lasts forever. But yeah, it's not a blind buy at all. This is one of the most daring ones. And yeah, man, I really enjoy it, but it can be quite difficult to wear. But the smell, it's like, yeah, wow, this is one of the best from Amouage, 100%, in my opinion. Okay, coming in at the number 4 spot. This one, I think it's overtaken Overture Man. Every time I wear this, more and more, I'm probably going to do the exact same thing, where I smell this now. The number 4 spot is Imitation. Such a cool bottle design, by the way. I love how it transitions in different colours, the blue to the purple to the pink to the yellow, and then you can't really see it, but to the yellow, down to the green at the bottom. There you go. So cool, man. And it's probably one of the most unique on this list, and that's why I love it. And ready? Genuine reaction here. Oh my God, yeah. Every time, every single time I smell this fragrance or I wear it, it is one of my favorite fragrances to wear. Even though I've got this bottle, I've got a tester bottle as well. I've got 2 bottles of this. I am actually considering getting a 3rd one just because of how much I love wearing this fragrance. Man, every time I wear it, it just blows me away. I know I'm going to have a good day when I spray this thing on. Even if I am having a bad day when I've got this thing on, I turn around, you know, I can smell myself. I'm like, oh man, it makes my day a little bit better. This to me smells a little bit like if you were to mix brown sugar and a pear together. That is what you get from this thing. It's got notes of citron, it's got leather, it's got castoreum in here. It's supposed to be a take on 1930s New York, and it has got a little bit of like a kind of dampness to it. So I think this to me just reminds me of like being in like a underground cellar or like a basement in New York, and you're listening to vinyl records. This thing gets compared to the smell of a vinyl record. And I sort of get that, but to me, the freshness in here from the citron is one of my favorite citrus notes. Yeah, man, I just really, really like this, and it's super unique. I just hope that Amouage doesn't discontinue this, and also such a cool bottle design. So coming in at the number 4 spot, I know J. Royale, this was his signature fragrance, and I wish that he would upload videos again because he was one of my favorite fragrance reviewers. If you are watching this, Jay, please return back to YouTube. But yeah, man, so good. Coming at the number 4 spot is Imitation Man. Okay, kicking the list off at the number 3 spot. This one again has dropped down by 1 point, and it's this one here. Another amazing bottle design. It's Reflection 45. So I think this was number 2 the last time I rated my Amouage fragrances. This has dropped below slightly just because even though it smells great, it's a little bit of like a spicier version to Reflection Man. I feel like with Amouage, you know, they're known for their spicy fragrances. I feel like Reflection 45 is what they should have released first up when they did release Reflection Man. So Reflection Man compared to Reflection 45, this thing's just a little bit lighter, whereas this thing's a little bit darker from the spicinesses in here. I think it has vanilla in here too. There's a little bit more of a sweetness that I get from this. It's super versatile. I think if I only need to wear one fragrance for the rest of my life, the other Reflection Man kind of pop up in my head. The only criticism I can give for this is it sits quite close to the skin. And I've actually only had a few compliments from this. I know some people like Chris, yeah, that's it, Chris from Fragmental. He said that he got like 100 different compliments, and that's why I actually decided to go out and give this thing a go. And I've only ever had reactions from people I know. I've never had reactions like, you know, unsolicited or walking past people, which could be just because of how close this thing sits to the skin. So I need to kind of trial with kind of how many sprays I do on this. I have been overspraying it to kind of compensate for the projection. Because of the concentration here, when you spray this on, it lasts like so long. Even leaves like a kind of, a little bit like the bottle, it leaves a kind of like oily sheen on your hand if you spray it on your hand. But yeah, so good. I really do enjoy it. Coming in at the number 3 spot is Reflection 45. Okay, and just missing out on the number 1 spot. This one I think was number 3 or number 4 the last time I rated it. But I've worn it a few more times, and oh my God, man. Every time I wear it, I'm like, why have they discontinued this? Amouage need to bring this thing back. It's the last one from the Midnight Flower collection. It is one of the strongest fragrances that I know. I sprayed this on my hand for tester whenever I first bought it. And I was on my computer, and it was probably like, you know, like an arm's length away because it was down typing on the keyboard, and I would move my mouse. And every time I moved my mouse, even 5 hours later, I could smell this thing. And I'm like, oh man, something smells good. And it was me. It was this fragrance. And the one that we are talking about is this here, Sunshine Man. So again, this was a very rare pickup for me to get. Wow. And Sunshine Man, a little bit like what the name suggests, just every time I smell it, it just reminds me of like, if you're in like a cold day and you get like a really nice, warm, ray of sunshine come down on you. It just gives you that kind of like feeling of like warmth. That is what this fragrance can like be related to. It's got orange brandy, it's got immortelle, it's got lavender. So it's a little bit boozy, it's a little bit sweet, but it is also kind of like a warm, dry fragrance. And it just works perfectly, man, for the colder weathers. But some people say that you can wear this for the warm weather. And I guess you could, but you have to go really light on the sprays because the performance on this is beast mode. And I actually do not decant this fragrance just because I want this entire bottle for myself. I think at the time of recording this video, it is still on the Amouage website, weirdly. If you want to pay full retail, I mean, if you like this and you ran out of a bottle, I'd probably say do it because I don't see this thing coming back. And I get the reaction with this thing that it reminds people of their childhood. And I think that's why I like it so much, because to me, and I think I hit the nail on the head here, this reminds me of these little like Halloween sweets that you get. They're like these little like kind of hard candy ball things. There's about 3 of them in a pack, or 3 to 5, and they're different colours. And that is what this thing smells like, I think. I can't put my finger on it, but I'm pretty sure that is what it is. So coming in at the number 2 spot. Weirdly, it gets reactions that you can smell it, and you've smelled something like this from your past. Very strange. Coming in at the number 2 spot is Sunshine Man. And really cool bottle design. This thing's actually a tester, so I didn't get the full presentation, which I wish I did. But I mean, look, it was so rare. I saw the tester come up, and I'm like, I'm buying it. And guys, coming in at the number 1 spot, I'm pretty sure you knew this was coming. It is my favourite fragrance of all time, and I wanted to maybe put it at number 2 to kind of surprise you, but I couldn't. I smelled it recently. I wore it recently. Like I said, it's my liquid luck fragrance. If you've ever watched Harry Potter, every time I wear this, I just know I'm gonna have a good day. I try and make it the best day possible when I wear this, and it's this one here. Smells like a billionaire. It just smells like something a king would wear. It's Jubilation 25. So this has got honey. It's got benzoin. It's got blackberry in here. Yeah. Wow. This thing tells so many stories. It's got so many different fragrance notes in here, but if I can boil it down to, in a few words, like I said, it just smells like pure liquid gold in a bottle. When you wear this, you just feel like a billionaire, like nothing can go wrong. And I mean, I would wear this every single day, but I feel like right now in my kind of journey in life and stuff, I don't think that I'm qualified to wear this every day because it does smell like something a billionaire would wear. If I had saw someone coming out of like a Bugatti Chiron or something, and they smelled like this, it would be totally understandable. I don't think that in terms of smells, it doesn't get more sophisticated or classy than this thing. The blackberry and the honey just work amazingly. And then you've got all the different spices in here that just kind of uplift it and just give it this super good, clean, but classiness to it. So coming at the number 1 spot, guys, is Jubilation 25. I am looking to pick up a bottle of Jubilation 40, but for now, I'm happy with this thing. And I'm quite glad that I got a older style bottle where it's just got it on the top here. It's not got the writing like see the Reflection Man. It hasn't got the writing here. And it also doesn't have, we go back to Sunshine Man a second, it doesn't have it on the side. So that's how you can tell that this is an older bottle. So if you can, try and find a bottle like this, or even better, like what we talked about with Silverman. This is a vintage bottle. Try and find one with the ivory cap that is non-magnetic. If you can find that with Jubilation 25, man, you have just found yourself the fragrance for the rest of your life. You have just found probably the biggest gem in the fragrance community, because they say that the newer batches have been reformulated and watered down. But for me, this thing works very well. I get about 10 hours, about 4 hours of projection, but it just sits really close to your skin. So I think for those 10 hours, whenever you move your head round and stuff, you can smell it on yourself, and it's just this kind of like bubble around you. And yeah, man, can't talk about this thing enough. Coming in at the number 1 spot is Jubilation 25. So that is going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching up to this point. Remember, As always, if you are new to the channel, please don't forget to drop a like. Please don't forget to subscribe as well if you haven't already and you are a fan of fragrances. I have got decants to most of these Amouage fragrances. If you live in the UK and you do want to try some out, then I have got a link down below if any of these sound like interest to you. Also, I have got a decanting course which will teach you how to grow a fragrance collection really fast without spending any real money. So there is a link to that in the description below too. But yeah guys, thank you so much for watching up to this point in the video. Really means a lot. The support on the channel lately has been great. And final note guys, this might be the last video that I upload for a few weeks. The reason why is this setup behind me and all the stuff in my room. I am packing up and I am moving out. So don't be surprised if a video isn't uploaded for 1 or 2 weeks. So if there is a kind of break in uploads, that's the reason why. So don't panic, you know, I haven't quit. It's just I've had to take a little break just to set up in this new house and get a recording schedule sorted again. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.